Have you ever dreamed of being in a world where ancient temples neighbor the neon of megacities, deer bow to you in the streets, and spring is a pink rain of sakura petals? Japan is not just a country. It is the breath of tradition, the whisper of spirits, the magic of the rhythms of nature, and the electric future. Here, every stone can tell a legend, and every corner can turn an ordinary day into a shot from an anime or an ancient poem. From snow-covered villages with thatched roofs to the futuristic bridges of Odaiba, from the quiet tea houses of Kyoto to the explosion of lanterns in Aomori. Everything is filled with meaning and beauty. It's a journey not by map, but by feeling. If you're looking for inspiration, harmony, or just want to see wonders that don't fit on Instagram, you've come to the right place. Buckle up. There are 60 places ahead that will prove Japan exists and it's magical. Standing like a perfect triangle, Mount Fuji towers over Japan as a spiritual symbol and inspiration for artists. Its snow-capped peak is reflected in mirrored lakes and appears in prints, poems, and dreams. Many Japanese consider climbing Fuji a pilgrimage, step by step upward, through forests and rocky slopes. At dawn, its peak is colored in pink-gold tones, as if the mountain itself comes to life. On a clear day, it can be seen even from Tokyo and seems to be watching the country. In summer, thousands of people flock to the summit, while in winter it falls into an icy silence. It's not just a volcano, it's a silent legend woven into the very soul of Japan. It doesn't speak, it waits for you to hear. Shanghai looks like a city that is constantly rushing towards the future without forgetting the past. The Pudong Towers are like needles piercing the sky, especially on a foggy evening when you can't see their ends. And the Bunki opposite is early 20th century Europe transposed onto Chinese soil. Ferries run between the two, and each of their horns sounds like a mingling of eras. In Shanghai's alleyways, Shikumen, laundry still dries and children play. Despite the throng of tourists a stone's throw away. The city does not sleep, but only changes its rhythm. At night, it becomes a neon theater. Here, coffee is drunk in art-decorated interiors, and next door, noodles are cooked according to a great-grandfather's recipe. Shanghai sticks in the memory as a city where the present lives in the mirror of the past. One of Japan's highest waterfalls, Nachino Otaki, is like a sparkling silk stream falling from 133 meters. It flows next to the ancient Seigan Toji Temple, and this combination of water and shrine creates an almost mythical scene. The greenery, the rocks, the mist. Everything seems part of another world. At the foot of the waterfall, you want to be silent because the sound of falling water is like a mantra. This place is called holy for a reason. You can feel the presence of something big here. Pilgrims ascend to it along the ancient pass of Kumano-Kodo, as they have been walking for centuries. Here the heart sinks and the soul breathes. Nachino Otaki is not just water, it is a blessing that fell from heaven. Goshikinuma is not just one pond, but dozens of lakes scattered throughout the forest, each glowing with a different color. From azure to emerald, turquoise to deep blue, they change depending on the light, the time of year, and even the angle of view. Created after the eruption of the Bandai volcano, these ponds seem to have absorbed the magic of the earth. Walking along the trails, you feel the world grow quieter, as if each pond is lulled by the noise. Sometimes clouds and trees are reflected in the water, and then the sky seems to melt away. Tourists are surprised. No Photoshop is needed. The colors are real. Here it's easy to forget that you're in reality, not in a fantasy illustration. Goshikinuma is the palette of nature itself, painted without a brush. Wat Tam Sua, or Tiger Temple, sits atop a karst cliff with 1,137 steep steps leading up to it. The climb requires effort but is rewarded with a panorama of jungle, limestone hills, and the Andaman Sea. At the top is a huge gilded Buddha statue surrounded by stone slabs pulsing with heat and light. The name comes from tiger paw prints found in one of the caves at the foot. Monks still live in the monastery, and meditation halls are located right in the caves. On the way to the top, you can meet playful monkeys, but be careful. They are not always friendly. The climb is best started early in the morning or at sunset to avoid the heat. This temple is a test for the body and a reward for the spirit. The Oiras Valley is a whispering forest full of moss, waterfalls, and clear streams. Everything moves here, but in silence. Leaves swaying, water flowing, light shining through the foliage. Each turn of the trail reveals a new scene, as if you were walking through a living painting. In spring, a verdant riot; in autumn, an explosion of colors; in winter, a crystal fairy tale. Nearby, you can hear murmuring sounds reminiscent of flute music. It is an ideal place for meditation and walking without purpose. Tourists walk slowly, almost afraid to disturb the magic. Oiras is Japan at its most gentle, watery, and green. On the border of Aomori and Akita prefectures lies Lake Tawada, a large, deep, and mysterious lake. Its waters are dark but clear, like a mirror reflecting clouds and mountain ranges. The lake was formed in the crater of an ancient volcano, and to this day it still holds the breath of the deep. In the fall, the slopes around it blaze with maples, and in the spring, drowned in freshness. Here one goes boating, feeds the ducks, and listens to the silence. Legend has it that a dragon lives in these waters, and if you stare long enough, it seems to be really slumbering under the surface. Lake Tawada is a tranquility that enters you through the eyes and stays there like a reflection. Torii is a little Sahara in the middle of Japan. The sand stretches along the coast of the Sea of Japan, forming waves, ridges, and steep slopes. It is hot in summer and snowy in winter. The dunes change like a living organism. People walk barefoot, lie in the sand, fly on paragliders, and ride camels. Yes, yes. Sometimes the wind draws intricate patterns on the surface of the dunes like an artist. There is also a museum of sand sculptures, an amazing combination of nature and art. Torii makes you forget that you are in the land of mountains and temples. Here you are on the edge of the desert, and that's freedom. Sakurajima is one of Japan's most active volcanoes, rising off the coast of Kagoshima. It breathes, it smokes, it is sometimes frightening, but always impressive. Locals live side by side with it, with respirators under their arm and anxiety in their hearts. Every day could be an eruption day, and yet people don't leave. They call it Uncle Sakura, as if they want to befriend the danger. Ferries run to the foot of the volcano, and tourists take pictures against the backdrop of its black slopes. Here you can feel that nature is not kidding. Sakurajima is a lesson in humility before the elements. Tadami Canyon is a verdant gorge where the river winds between the mountains like a ribbon falling from the back of a dragon. One of the most picturesque railroad routes in Japan runs through it. The train disappears into a tunnel and then appears on a bridge over the river. In the fall, the slopes are ablaze with fiery red trees, and the train seems to be rushing through a fairy tale. The water in the river is as clear as glass and reflects the sky and the forest. Tourists come together for one shot, the train on the bridge, surrounded by flowers. The locals keep this beauty as a treasure. There is no hustle and bustle here, just a landscape that takes your breath away. Tadami is a landscape that says, stop and look. This place seems carved out of myth, with rocks overhanging a quiet rivulet and water flowing like the whispers of ancient gods. According to legend, the sun goddess Amaterasu hid here, and the gorge has been filled with sacred silence ever since. Narrow boats glide through the emerald water, and above them, the Manai waterfall falls like white silk. The stone walls are covered with moss, and even the air seems green. Every curve of the canyon is like a frame from an ancient legend. A light fog gives everything the feeling of a dream. Here you don't want to talk, only listen. This is not just nature, but a Japanese epic living in water and stone. On the shore of the Sea of Japan, white cliffs chiseled by time and wind stand like watchful giants. They are not smooth. On the contrary, they are sharp and jagged, as if nature drew them in a fit of anger. The tides flood the lower edges, and seagulls circle over the peaks. The cliffs glisten in the sun like ivory. Sometimes they seem impregnable, and other times they are the kind guardians of the shore. Local fishermen believe that the spirits of the sea live in these rocks. On a clear day, the contrast between the white blocks and the azure of the water is truly hypnotizing. This place is like a breath of old Japan untouched by time. When you enter this grove, the noise of the city fades away, leaving only the rustling of the stalks, which sounds like the breath of the earth. The tall, slender trunks soar to the sky, and the light shines through them like green stained glass windows. The wind plays with the bamboo, creating a sound that is more soothing than any music. Here you want to walk slowly, to look up, to freeze. Tourists take videos, but no one can convey the silence, the gentle magic that hovers between the trunks. At the end of the path, a temple and a bridge over the river, where sky, water, and greenery meet. It's not just a walk, it's a purification. Arashiyama is Japanese poetry carved in bamboo. In spring, the hills are covered with blue Nemophila flowers, as if a piece of sky has fallen to the ground. Millions of tiny petals sway in the breeze, creating the illusion of a living ocean. People come here to forget about time and just stand in this blue silence. Coca blossoms in the summer and fields of red and yellow in the fall. The park lives in the rhythm of nature, changing like a kaleidoscope. The view from the top of the hill, of the sea and the horizon, makes your heart sink. No words are needed, just a breath. Hitachi is a celebration of color that lasts all year long. In the mountains of Chunang, rice terraces are like steps of time descending to the valleys, reflecting the sky and clouds. They are like a mirror in spring, emerald in summer, and golden in fall. An old wooden bridge connects the banks, as if binding the centuries. Here you can feel how the labor of human hands turns into art. In the early morning, when the fog covers the valley, everything looks like a dream. The locals work in the fields like their grandfathers and great-grandfathers, slowly, rhythmically, respectfully. It's a landscape where man and nature are one, and the bridge is like a thread between generations. There on the island of Yaku stands the ancient cedar of Jomonsugi, over 2,000 years old, as if it holds the breath of the ages. The way to it is not just a path, but a test and a ritual. The forest around it is covered with moss. The trees are like guards, and underfoot there is a deafening, damp darkness. Even the air here smells of antiquity and rain. Each step brings you closer to a tree that has seen more than man can tell. Jomonsugi stands like a sage rooted in the heart of the island. When you reach him, you want to bow down, because what you see before you is not a tree, it's a witness to eternity. In the south of the Miura Peninsula lies the island of Yakushima, a wild, windswept island with stone ledges carved by time. Waves crash against the rocks and foam flies into the air like flakes of snow. It smells of salt and freedom, and the sound of the surf never fades. Stone arches, caves, and cliffs make it feel like the edge of the world. People come here not for the beach, but for the elements. This place whispers of antiquity, of ships that disappeared in the fog. At sunset, the cliffs are colored gold and scarlet like molten copper. Yakushima is an unadorned island of strength and beauty. Aomori is a tropical Japan where white sand meets turquoise water. There aren't many tourists here, which makes the silence seem even deeper. Reefs guard the lagoons where sea turtles and coral of all colors swim. Palm trees lean toward the water, and the sky is endlessly blue. The local villages live at their own pace without hurry or noise. The beaches here are not just a beautiful place, they are the breath of nature. The waves stroke the shore as if apologizing for their noise. It's a place where you can forget about everything and just be. Shirokama is not one waterfall, but an entire cascade system hidden in the heart of the forest. They are called white steps because the water falls from the terraces like a staircase made of stone. The path to them loops between moss and tree roots, as if inviting you to a secret place. The sound of the water increases with each step, until finally you are in front of the silver wall. The spray refreshes your face, and in that moment you feel alive. Locals say that the water here washes the soul. This is not a tourist attraction, but a sacred touch of nature. Shirokama is a purification that has no words. Every summer, a purple symphony comes to Furano. The hills turn into a carpet of lavender, and the fragrance hangs in the air like a fairy tale. People stroll along the alleys, inhaling the honeyed scent and photographing the endless waves of color. The horizon shimmers with shades of lilac, pink, and purple as the sun sets. Furano is known for its farms where lavender is grown with love and patience. They sell soap, ice cream, and even coffee with a hint of lavender. This place isn't just beautiful, it's lulling. Furano is a fragrance you want to remember forever. This temple seems to float above the mountainside, supported by wooden columns that seem to grow out of the ground. A sea of sakura trees in spring, flaming maples in fall, and a whole city wrapped in mist underfoot. The Kiyomizu balcony is a place where wishes are made, frozen against the backdrop of eternity. When you look down, it feels like you're in an ancient legend. In the temple, you can hear only the whisper of prayers and the creaking of floorboards. Water from the holy spring flows down 3 troughs for health, learning, and love. Hundreds of pilgrims and tourists come here to experience harmony. Kiyomizu-dera is a temple where time slowly recedes. Beneath the arches of this temple breathes a bronze great Buddha, one of the largest in the world. He looks down on visitors with a silence that is one of strength and peace. The wooden temple building has long been considered the largest in the world, and even now it is astonishingly powerful. Deer, symbols of the gods, walk around, bowing their heads for cookies from the hands of tourists. Inside is the scent of wood, candles, and thousands of years of faith. People pass through a hole in a column. They say it brings enlightenment. Here, history breathes through the architecture. Todaiji is not just a temple, it is the living heart of Nara. The pavilion, covered in real gold, is reflected in the smoothness of the pond like a heavenly mirage. It was designed as a vacation villa, but has become a symbol of refined Japanese aesthetics. In spring, it is drowned in flowers, in fall in the gold of maples, and in winter in the crystal silence of snow. All around is a perfect garden where rocks, moss, and trees seem to be planned by nature itself. People walk in silence, as in a museum, afraid to destroy the harmony with sound. Photos do not convey the magic of the light that plays on the golden walls. Here you want to stay longer and just stare. Kinkakuji is a dream of beauty realized. White as a crane in flight, Himeji Castle rises above the plain and resembles a samurai tale. Its walls are layered and intricate to confuse enemies. Architecture is strategy. From inside, there are dark wooden floors, steep staircases, and the smell of time. But from the top, there is a panorama that takes your breath away. It has survived all wars and disasters, as if guarded by spirits. In spring, the castle is surrounded by a sea of cherry blossoms. White on white, dream on dream. People come here not just for the view, but for the feeling of strength and resilience. Himeji is a castle that has not given up. On the water, as if floating in eternity, stands the red thorium, a gateway to another world. At high tide, it appears to float like a mirage, and at low tide, it becomes part of the land. The sanctuary stands directly on stilts in the sea, connecting sky, water, and prayers. The sounds of the surf merge here with the ringing voices of the monks. Deer walk around the island, approaching people without fear, as messengers of the gods. Here, silence is not frightening, it purifies. The sanctuary is especially beautiful at sunset, when the thorium glows from within. Miyajima is not just an island, it is a portal to the Japanese soul. The heart of the modern capital hides the heart of an ancient country, a verdant oasis surrounded by a moat and walls. It's not easy to get inside, but even a glance outside is enough to feel the weight of history. Stone bridges, manicured gardens, and the austere silhouettes of the towers create an atmosphere of poised power. This is not a palace in the Western sense. It is as modest as Japan itself. Every stone is in its place. Every pine tree is trimmed. Around the palace is a park where families walk, children run, and cherry blossoms bloom. Here, history and modernity look at each other across the water surface. The palace is a reminder that Japan is a country where the past has not gone away. Hokkaido's only castle is the guardian of Japan's northern frontiers. It stands by the sea amidst cherry orchards, where in spring the air smells of flowers and salt. Matsumai is a tale of the frontier, of Ainu influence, of how culture expanded without losing itself. Its walls aren't as grandiose as Himeji's, but there's a warmth and honesty to them. Inside is a museum with artifacts, swords, armor, and letters. It seems that the spirit of a samurai might step out to meet you from the shadows of the corridor. The view from the tower is of the vast ocean with only the wind beyond. Matsume is the castle of the edge of the world. You enter, and you see rows and rows, endless rows of golden figures. Each of the 1,001 Kannon statues has a different face, a different pose, and they all look at you, calmly, wisely. The smoke of incense, silence, and the light chime of history hangs in the hall. The central figure is the great Kannon with 1,000 hands, able to hear every pain. People stand silent, sometimes with their eyes closed, as if listening with their hearts rather than their ears. The wooden walls hold the breath of centuries, and light glides across the gold, bringing the countenances to life. This is not just a temple, it is an avenue of compassion. Here you are not alone. Here you are already understood. The cobblestones of this street are rattled by footsteps that could belong to a samurai or a wandering monk. Wooden facades, lanterns, tea shops, everything is preserved as it was in the Edo era. There are no advertisements or glass, just wood, paper shutters, and the aroma of green tea. Tourists walk slowly, trying not to destroy the atmosphere. Sometimes a bell sounds and it feels like you've traveled back in time. Locals sell sweets, calligraphy-written souvenirs, and stories. Sumagajika Street is not a museum, it's alive, it breathes. It's time travel without a time machine. Pai is a small town in northern Thailand, surrounded by rolling hills, rice paddies, and mists. Its hot springs are one of the favorite spots for tourists and locals alike. The water comes from underground, saturated with minerals, and is divided into several pools with different temperatures. The best time to bathe is in the morning, when the air is cool and steam rises above the water, creating a fabulous atmosphere. There are bamboo, banana trees, and birdsong all around. Some pools have wooden benches, while others are wilder and more natural. It is the perfect place to recover from traveling and trekking. Pai Hot Springs is an embrace of nature and body care. This garden has been called one of the three great gardens of Japan, and it truly seems like the epitome of perfection. Every pathway, every tree seems to be in its place, calibrated over centuries. Sakura blossoms in spring, emerald shade in summer, flaming maple in fall, and the magic of snow on the branches of pine trees in winter. Small bridges, waterfalls, a pond with islets. It's as if you've entered a living engraving. Kenrokuen is especially beautiful in the early morning when the garden is still slumbering. The sound of gurgling water and the creaking of gravel underfoot is a true Japanese symphony of silence. People don't just walk here, they meditate, realizing how beautiful the imperfect is. This is a garden that teaches you to see beauty in every bend of a branch. The black silhouette of Matsu Castle rises above the city, reflected in the calm water of the moat. Its wooden walls, painted in dark colors, give it an austere and quiet strength. Inside, steep staircases creak with every step, and the panorama from the top tower is breathtaking. The castle has survived the modernization era, remaining intact, as if time respects it. Around it, cherry blossoms bloom in the spring, creating a contrast to the dark walls. Locals call it the Black Chapel, and indeed it's as if it's frozen in a leap. You can't feel the tourist hustle and bustle here, just dignity, history, and silence. Matsu is a castle that looks into the distance and is silent. Climbing Mount Hiei is like leaving the everyday life below. Hidden here among the clouds and pine trees is the ancient Enryakuji Monastery, where Japanese Tendai Buddhism was born. Monks in yellow robes walk past, carrying with them centuries of discipline. Silence here isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of the spirit. The temples are simple but powerful, overlooking Lake Biwa and a world lost in the haze. Pilgrims, seekers, samurai, and poets have walked these paths. Here you feel your rhythm slow down and your thoughts become transparent. Enryakuji is a temple where the inner becomes louder than the outer. You walk under the red gates of Torii and they don't end, one after another, like a path that continues into eternity. Fushimi Inari is a shrine dedicated to foxes and harvest spirits. Each torii is a gift, an offering, a thank you. It's quiet at dawn with only footsteps on the gravel and the rustling of leaves. Along the trail are statues of foxes, mysterious and smiling. You're not just walking, you're moving through the prayers of thousands of people. At the top, you get a view of Kyoto, and you realize that the path is more important than the goal. Fushimi Inari is not just a temple, it's a road through hearts. Kureshiki has retained the atmosphere of the Edo era, with white warehouses reflecting in the canal. Boats with oars glide along the water, steered by traditionally dressed men. Narrow streets lead to shops, museums, galleries. It smells of rice, old wood, and memories. Each facade is a story of silk, paper, craft. People wander slowly, peering in windows, drinking green tea on the shore. Everything flows like life itself, calm, unhurried. Kureshiki is the Japanese soul, frozen between water and time. There is silence here, but it is not empty. It is filled with pain and hope. The Genbaku Dome stands as a wounded witness to the tragedy, but around it are flowers, a river, and a world of children. People from all countries bring paper cranes and words of peace. The bell of silence sounds and you close your eyes, and you hear the sky. The memorial doesn't accuse, it reminds of life, of fragility. That peace is not a given, but a choice. The air on Mount Koya is special, moist, piney, and as if thick with prayers. In the forest among the cedars, there are thousands of ancient tombstones covered with moss, with Jizo figures and lanterns. Okunoen is not just a cemetery, it is a place where the living and the dead speak in whispers. In the evening, the lanterns light up and the path becomes a road to another world. Monks meet you at the in-temple, feed you vegetarian food, and invite you to the morning service. The sounds of mantra under the vaults of the ancient temple penetrate deeper than words. Here you don't fear death, you make peace with it. Mount Koya is a place of silence and understanding. The streets of Nagamichi retain the footsteps of those who lived with sword and code. Clay walls, reed roofs, streams, and stone bridges. Everything is just as it was hundreds of years ago. Inside there are ancient interiors, armor, scrolls, tea rooms. You walk around and imagine someone sharpening a katana against the wall. There is no rush here, only honor, order, and the shade of cherry trees. The Nomura Family Museum tells about the life of a samurai without embellishments, strictly and with dignity. Even the air seems more disciplined. This neighborhood is like a slow-motion shot from an old movie about loyalty. The deer here are not wild. They are like guardians of the city, free-spirited, intelligent, cheeky, and gentle. They bow their heads for a treat as if bowing, but this is part of the ritual. All around are temples, pagodas, statues. Everything is old, wise, and very much alive. In Todaiji, the great Buddha smiles, and in the garden of Kasuga Taisha, thousands of lanterns are burning. Here you are not a tourist. You are a guest of time. Every path leads not into the forest, but deep into yourself. Nara is a city where nature and spirit are one and the same. Osaka Castle is like a monument to Toyotomi Hideyoshi's tenacity and ambition. Its white walls and green roofs rise above the park, especially beautiful during the sakura season. Inside is a museum with weapons and stories of the Great War. And below, in another world, Dotonbori pulsates. Neon, street food, shouting vendors, the smell of takoyaki and fresh fish. Everything is boiling and burning. A different Japan lives here. Noisy, tasty, cheeky. The castle looks down on the city from above like a wise man at his flighty grandson. Osaka is a city of contrast and flavor, where past and present dine at the same table. In a valley surrounded by mountains, the village of Shirakawago grows out of a fairy tale. Houses with thatched roofs in the shape of triangles, as if they were folded in prayer. Gasho Zukuri. These roofs are not just beautiful. They withstand snowy winters like patient keepers of warmth. Inside there are stoves, creaking floorboards, the smell of wood and needlework. In winter, the village glows like a magic lantern, and tourists swoon at the beauty. Everything here is slow, real, without plastic and hurry. The people who have not forgotten the smell of bread baked on fire live here. Shirakawago is a Japan you can touch, breathe in, and remember forever. Gokuyama is Shirakawago's little sister, but with its own voice and rhythm. The narrow paths between houses, the steam from the baths, the humming of crickets in the evenings. There are fewer people here, but more silence. The houses made of wood and straw, standing against the mountains, seem like parts of nature rather than architecture. Folk songs are sung here, and the kokyu, a Japanese violin, is played. In the evening, when the lanterns go out, there is such darkness that one can hear one's own thoughts. Snow falls like a slow-motion movie, covering the rooftops like a blanket. It's a place for those who want not just to see Japan, but to live it. Gokuyama is a secluded corner where time flows differently. Between Kyoto and Edo, along the ancient Nakasendo Road, stand two villages frozen in time, Magome and Sumago. Travelers once stopped here, and the spirit of wanderlust still hangs in the air. The stone paths, wooden facades, lanterns, and tea houses all say, "You're in the Edo era." There are no cars here, no wires, just the tinkling of wind bells and footsteps on gravel. Magome is more lively. Sumago is quieter, more intimate, as if whispering. Between them is a scenic path, traveled on foot like samurai and poets. People bow to each other as in the old days. These villages are not scenery. They are the living past. Takayama lies in the Hida Mountains, where the air is pure and the spirit of tradition is like freshly carved wood. The narrow streets of the old town breathe the smell of soy sauce, rice wine, and cedar planks. Here they make the finest lacquered products, festival carriages, wooden toys, as if the hand of the master has never aged. Every morning there is a market where grandmothers sell homemade pickles and dried herbs. In spring there is the Takayama Festival, with lanterns, music, dancing, and luxury wagons. The temples, bridges, workshops, everything retains the atmosphere of the era. There is no noise, but rather slow, respectful, loving conversation. Takayama is the Japan of hands and handicrafts. Every summer, Aomori explodes with color as it hosts Nabuta Matsuri, one of Japan's most colorful festivals. Giant glowing figures, warriors, dragons, gods, float through the streets. They are accompanied by drums, flutes, and dancers in colorful costumes. Hayatai. Sound, light, and joy fill the entire city as the sky darkens. At that moment, it seems as if everything around is a myth come to life. People come from all over the country to see a tradition become a celebration. Children with lanterns in their hands, adults with a camera, in tears of happiness. Aomori these days is a city on fire with excitement. Jun is not just a street, it is the breath of Kyoto, its rustling kimonos and the sound of footsteps on stone. Here geisha appear at dusk, quiet, graceful, like spirits of the era. Their faces are as white as the moon, their movements like the dance of the wind. The narrow streets are lit with paper lanterns, and behind the wooden shutters the music of the shamisen sounds. Visitors come to tea houses where tradition lives on without decorations. Xi'an is a place where beauty is not an appearance, but the art of being. Everything here is full of understatement, expectation, the slight flirtation of time, and you yourself become part of this slow poem. Matsumoto is known for its black castle, which seems to be frozen against the backdrop of the Yatsugatake Mountains. It is nicknamed Raven Castle for its dark walls and wing-shaped towers. Inside, steep staircases, wooden beams, and a history of struggle and dignity. Outside, there is a moat, sakura trees, and a reflection that looks like it was drawn by an artist. The city has retained the spirit of the samurai, but it is also home to musicians, artists, and craftsmen. The streets are lined with pottery, paper, lacquer, and lively crafts. Matsumoto is a city where you can touch sword and brush. It's a balance of strength and sophistication. Nagoya is a city that is often overlooked, and for nothing. From everyday tableware to fine porcelain masterpieces, it is home to a deep culture of ceramics. Artisan streets like Aramatadori Street are full of galleries, workshops, and the smells of clay and firing. Here you can watch a craftsman create the perfect bowl almost without looking. Nagoya Castle rises proudly, but the noise of its history is already given over to craftsmanship. In each piece is the warmth of hands, patience, and memory. The city's museums are filled with treasures that once graced the tables of samurai. Nagoya is the center of art in everyday life. Yamaguchi is a place where hot springs combine with ancient shrines. Here at Chunin Inn, evening mantras sound and lanterns illuminate paths past moss and stone. Thermal waters flow near the temples. You can take a dip body and soul. The shrines here are not luxurious, but there is strength and peace in their simplicity. Mountains whisper, trees sway, steam rises from the water. Everything breathes harmony. The locals are quiet, smiling, and as if they know something you don't yet understand. It's easy to stay longer in Yamaguchi. It's not a resort, it's a refuge. Madera is hidden high in the mountains, and the path to it is like a purification. The path winds through the forest, among mosses, ancient cedars, and stone steps. At the top, there is a temple where you can feel the breath of the mountain wind and the power of the earth. The legendary hero Minamoto no Yoshimitsu was born here, and the spirit of military honor is still in the air. The statues, wooden halls, and the panorama of Kyoto below make you stand still. The silence here is not deaf, it rings out. People don't come for the photos. They come for a reboot. Madera is a temple that heals not the body, but the soul. Tokyo Tower is a symbol of post-war hope, inspired by the Eiffel Tower, but painted in red and white like the sun on a flag. In the evening, it lights up with lights, transforming it into a beacon of modern Tokyo. Skytree is taller, more futuristic, like an antenna poking through the sky. From its vantage point, the city seems like a vast ocean of light. One tower speaks of the past, the other of the future, but both connect dream and reality. Cafes, souvenirs, aquariums, and art installations are bustling at the foot of the tower. In one, you feel the romance of an old movie. In the other, the breath of tomorrow. Together, they are the heart of Tokyo, the pulse of which never stops, day or night. Odaiba is a Tokyo that decided to play in the future. The artificial island is connected by the Rainbow Bridge, which sparkles with all colors at night. A replica of the Statue of Liberty stands here, and next to it there are robots, VR halls, and mall labs. In the Team Lab Borderless Museum, the boundaries are blurred. You walk through sound, color, and light, and the walls become alive. Beaches meet skyscrapers, ships meet ice cream machines. Everything around you says you're an anime character living in the 2050s. Even the sunset over the bay looks painted here. Odaiba is a fantasy that you can enter through a bridge. In Akihabara, every corner is a portal to another universe. Neon, huge screens, voice announcements. It's not the city that buzzes here, it's a geek's dream. Stores on several floors where you can find figures, manga, maps, retro games, and costumes of any character. On the streets, there are cosplayers and girls in maid outfits inviting you to cafes. Here you can sit with a PS1, order a coffee with a Pikachu drawing, or buy a rare comic book for the price of a car. And it's not just a neighborhood, it's a pop culture temple. Akihabara doesn't judge. It welcomes anyone who believes in the magic of fantasy. It's a world where heroes live right next to you. In Nara, among the ancient temples, there is a cafe where you will be served under the approving gaze of a deer. These graceful animals come right inside, sniffing the menu and waiting for a treat. You drink tea, and next to you is a deer with the dignity of a Buddhist monk. They are not afraid of people, on the contrary, a little cranky, like local celebrities. Sometimes they pat your head, sometimes they just stand in the doorway like keepers of comfort. The cafe is decorated with wooden masts, lanterns, and pictures, with visitors and reindeer. Here you feel like you are in a fairy tale, where there is no boundary between man and nature. In Nara, friendship with a reindeer starts with a cookie and continues with a lifelong memory. When autumn comes to Narragain, it doesn't paint, it lights up. The trees flash scarlet, gold, amber colors as if the temple is surrounded by a flame of light. The leaves rustle underfoot, and every step is like a touch of poetry. In the air is the smell of bonfires, uka, and wood smoke. Tourists and pilgrims walk along the stone paths, wrapped in scarves and silence. Nearby are ancient pagodas covered in moss, as if erased by time. The sunset streaks through the maples, turning everything into a Japanese print. Autumn in Narragain is a dance of light and memory. Ueno Park in spring is like a flash of pink dream. You walk under the endless arches of cherry blossoms, and the petals fall like snow. People are having hanami, feasts right on the blue foils, drinking sake, laughing, singing. In the air, the aroma of flowers, fried food, the sounds of flutes and children's voices. Swans swim across the pond, and the bridges are covered in flowers. Everything shines, everything is alive, everything says, this is life. Even tired Tokyoites become poets here. Ueno in spring is a moment of happiness that you want to hold in the palms of your hands. The old tracks of Kij at the foot of Kyoto become a living tunnel of sakura in spring. There are no trains here, but every tree remembers carrying silence past. People walk along the sleepers looking up, breathing in that pink light. It seems as if you are walking into another era or into the heart of the poem. Petals lie between the rails like letters carried away by time. Photographers hide in the bushes, couples hold hands. There is no talking here, only smiling. Kigai is the road on which spring walks. On this small island surrounded by sea and pine trees, rabbits rule. Hundreds of the long-eared creatures run free, approaching people, standing on their feet, asking for treats. Okunoshima was once a secret military base, but now it is a utopia of a furry world. Rabbits sit on benches, chase bicycles, sleep under trees. People arrive with carrots, with joy, and with a childlike smile. No one is in a hurry, no one makes noise, so as not to frighten this weightless magic. The wind brings the smell of the sea and grass. Okunoshima is an island where the heart begins to beat softer. Gunkanjima, or Cruiser Island, looks like the set for an end-of-the-world movie. It used to be a coal fortress inhabited by thousands of people, with schools, hospitals, movie theaters. Now there are only the concrete skeletons of buildings, the wind and the sound of waves. Once there was life here, now there is only an echo. Tourists enter the pier with bated breath, feeling history looking through the broken windows. Everything is being destroyed slowly, beautifully, and terribly. It's not just a ruin, it's a monument to how quickly civilization is disappearing. Gunkanjima is a ghost island that whispers in a language of forgotten voices. Okinawa is Japan with the ocean running through its veins. White sand, warm turquoise water, seagulls and reefs, everything breathes relaxation and sunshine. Ryukyu culture is special. Dancing, singing, a language different from anything on Honshu. Smiles are different here, softer, warmer, family-like. On the streets they sell pineapples, sweet potatoes, ceramics with dragons. People live long lives, as if the place itself prolongs life. In the evening, under the starry sky, everything becomes quieter and only the ocean can be heard. Okinawa is not a resort. It is a native song sung by the sea. In each of these places is the breath of time, the pulse of nature, and the light of the soul. Japan does not shout, it whispers, and those who know how to listen can hear the fairy tale in every step. It is a country where reality becomes a little brighter than a dream, where you can be silent with a deer, talk to a tree, and get lost in the city to find yourself. If even one place on this list has resonated in your heart, then the journey has already begun. Write down what you would like to see with your own eyes. And to not miss new discoveries and continuation of this series, subscribe to the channel. Forward towards the wonders.